Hi, I'm Kirstie and I am a trainee counsellor here at Tameside. I've just completed my 100 hours last week here and it's been wonderful.
Excellent. So can you tell us a little bit, Kirstie, about your journey into mental health work, sort of the hows and the whys?
Yeah, of course. So my journey into this vocation that I'm hoping to kind of have a long career in going forward, it was sort of a lot of different things that have all sort of come to a head over time. Like most people, like everyone, I've had different situations that kind of lead you down different paths. I had one particular time of my life where there was quite a lot of trauma, there's bereavement, there was lots going on that affected a lot of people, and ironically, as I'm sat here now, I wasn't comfortable reaching out to anyone. I've always been that person that is there for everyone else and listens to everyone else. I've done a lot of different voluntary work where it's, a listening service, and I'm just someone that wants to be there for other people but found it very hard to ever reach out to anyone else. At that same time, a lot of the issues affected people that were close to me. One person in particular who I love more than anyone else, they accessed counselling reluctantly, and seeing how it helped them was the most incredible thing, and it's something that gets me emotional when I think about it, because I don't mean to be dramatic when I say that it essentially saved them, I think, and put them back on the right path. And I always have described it since then as magic, just absolute magic. It just made such a difference. And that person had access to so many people, such a great support network, an abundance of love and support around them, but still just needed that something different, and that something different was counselling. So from that point, I always just had it there that I need to know more about that. I want to be involved in that. And then in my professional life, I work in something completely different to this. One of the roles that I have, I work as a personal trainer and fitness instructor, and that I found, as well as people coming in to train the body, people just wanted a space to speak as well. And it got quite intimate, people became really vulnerable in that situation. So again, it was another thing of put that there. And then I work in the media, and one program that I worked on, it was all about therapists, and that sort of, kind of signed the deal, whatever you say, crossed the dots, whatever that saying is, I'm not great with them, that made me just think, wow, watching these people do what they were doing, and all these different paths just came to a head, and I was like, right, it's all put me on this path here now. I tentatively had a look what was around, I saw an introduction to counselling, and I thought, what have I got to lose? Let's give it a go. And 3-4 years later, here I am. I got completely hooked after that introduction, and it's just been the most amazing journey in every single aspect that I could even think of. So that's how just lots of different things all came to a head, put me on one particular path, and here I am.
So in terms of being a placement counsellor,
yes,
what's it like for you sort of day to day, in terms of completing your 100 hours, and obviously you've been a placement counsellor here with Tameside, Oldham and Glossop Mind, but what's it like day to day just being a counsellor? I'm sure people would be interested to know. Obviously we've got to keep things confidential, of course, but just in terms of how you find working with clients, your work-life balance, that kind of thing, what are some of the things that crop up quite often for people in counselling settings? What are some of the common things that people present with that you find?
Okay, so first of all, as a placement counsellor, I come in here and I leave and can't believe, first of all, my luck that I'm being able to be sat in that chair and speak with people, listen to people. I just feel so privileged that people will be in that room, and the things that they share and that they feel comfortable sharing with me. It's an absolute honour and privilege, and it's not even every single day that I'm in, it's every single hour I'm with a client. I know for sure that I made the best decision that I ever made. It's quite emotionally taxing sometimes. You do have to be able to separate, which I have to be very honest, I'm a very sensitive and emotional person, so that's something that I've had to really work on, trying to leave that's there, this is here. But it's the most incredible and empowering, knowing that you're empowering other people, situation to be in. I absolutely love it. So I come home exhausted, drained, but so happy and so privileged that I'm doing it. You do see a lot of the same things come up constantly, and to be honest, there's probably a handful of buckets you could put each thing into, but they just show themselves, manifest themselves in different ways, if that makes sense. So I think I'm yet to see people or yet to see anyone come to me who's not got bereavement that's still bubbling away. I find that a lot of people think this has happened, but that's nothing, and I'm here because of this, and actually quite often it's that thing that they shove to one side that is the underlying problem still and the underlying issue. So yeah, there's so much about bereavement, and so much of what people would term as like the little things that they don't feel they need to give any mind space to, that they just that doesn't matter, and it always comes out. It always does matter.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really good point you're making, that often people will come with certain things that they're dealing with, but also equally there's other sort of historic stuff that is there as well.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of just unpicking that, I suppose, like as best you can when they're able to, with your support.
Yeah, I mean, it's a definite journey for them, and I've been very fortunate with all of the clients I've had so far, that we've been able to strike up a real connection, and that we've been able to kind of really go on this journey together. And I always say, in that first session, you're doing your contracting, it's very much them sussing you out, not only as a counsellor but as a person, and seeing whether this will work or not. And it's quite stop-starty and juttery. And I always say that first session, it's about getting that big suitcase or rucksack, and we just throw everything out. Everything's screwed up, a bit smelly and scrumpled up, and we go through it together over the next 6 weeks. And we don't need that's sold, and I really love that, and we'll keep that, and that's not even mine, that's theirs, I'm giving that back. And we kind of then together over the next 6 sessions or 5 sessions just pack everything that we need to keep in our little bag together, and try and make sense of the other stuff or discard the other stuff if possible. And yeah, just seeing that process. And you can often, in the seat that you're in, you can see things before they can. Obviously, as a person-centred counsellor, you don't go, oh my goodness, do you know what it is, and do you know what you should do? That's not what we do. We don't give that advice, but we see that, and we kind of facilitate them recognising that themselves. And when you see those light bulb moments, it's like, yes.
Excellent. yeah, totally get that. And I think that's a really good analogy. I really like your concept of kind of like the rucksack, or the tipping everything out. I think that's great. In terms of what I mentioned before around like work-life balance and things like that, as a counsellor, are you good at practicing what you preach, like in terms of looking after your own mental health and well-being? Do you have any tips or suggestions or things that work for you in terms of looking after your mental health and well-being? What works for you?
Okay, so in terms of, I guess we're talking self-care here, because first of all, when you say about practice what you preach, I still have my friends have to sit me down and kind of say, if you're not seeing what's just happened, and you don't, all these things, people think that you'll have all of your stuff together, will say, and you don't. We're still just always making mistakes and trundling our way along. But in terms of self-care, yes, it's something that I've really prioritised, because I've learned the value of it. So as a parent, I think that generally you just always think you don't have the time, and don't get me wrong, it's difficult to anyway, even if you're not a parent. But for me, I've always had that parent guilt of, if I've got 5 minutes, I should be doing something else. But just the society that we live in, I think we're made to think we have to be 100 miles an hour all the time, and it's all about the hustle and doing something. But it's so important, and seeing people burn out all the time, in terms of what that self-care is, it's so subjective. There's no one size fits all, so it wouldn't help me saying you should read a book, because if you hate reading, it's a chore. So what I would suggest to anyone, what I find works for me, is doing whatever makes you feel as peaceful and as close to your authentic self as possible. So it's something, just anything that you enjoy, where you can just be free in your mind. So for myself, for example, I love training, so I'll go to the gym, that's time. I read, I'd love getting lost in someone else's story, and I just love being out in nature. So those three things for me, that's what works. But you'll have other people who'll just love the whole Netflix binge or get a bath. It can be something as simple as pop a face mask on. It doesn't have to be you need to take a full day care. It's just a little bit of time each day if possible, and it's what works for that person to make them kind of go, oh, it's all right to just be me in my own space here.
That's really useful, and I like the fact that you referenced something that we don't think about very often, and that is the fact that actually everybody's different, and what works for one person may not necessarily work for others, but the concept in terms of that peaceful, finding peace,
yes,
and being your authentic self and feeling comfortable to be your authentic self, I think that is absolutely brilliant. I suppose the last thing to ask you really is quite pertinent, and that is, for anybody watching this video that has an interest in becoming a counsellor, what would you say to them? Like, the process, the length of time, the journey that you have been on as a placement counsellor, and becoming qualified and all of that stuff. If somebody said to you, I want to become a counsellor, where do they start? What words of encouragement could you give them?
Okay, so this could be quite a long-winded answer, as most of mine tend to be, but if I can break it down into a few little bits. But if you have any ounce of a calling to do anything involved in the mental health industry, do it. We're in a world that sadly needs it more than ever, so any little bit that anyone can do, and if you feel that it's something that's within you, it's something that when you do it, you do it because you love it. So if you've got that in you, then do it. It's for everyone else and for yourself. People tend to make this change or this decision a bit later in life, from what I've found, and I think people can worry about the change and what I've always been used to doing this. Again, don't let that hold you back. Just do it. There's so many different processes to take, doing the diploma, doing different degrees, there's so many different things. So again, not one size fits all. It's finding which one works best for you, which works into your work life, that whole work-life balance, and your family life. And I remember reading a quote, I can never re-quote things correctly, but it was something along the lines of, whether you do it or you don't do it, that time's going to pass anyway. So for me, I think I'm 4 years down the line. Those 4 years would have gone on whether I was doing this or not. And to be able to kind of sit here and go, right, I spent those 4 years, I've done this, and this, and it's just incredible. So yeah, if you've got any little bit of you that thinks, I wonder what. And I'd actually said to someone the other day that even if, at this point where I've just completed my placement hours, I need to do my last little bit to hopefully be signed off and qualified, and I hope to have an amazing career within this industry and help to, help people in life for the rest of my days. But even if that doesn't come into fruition, just where that's taken me on my journey in life and how it's helped me in the world and helped me communicate with people, whether it's my sons, family, friends, strangers, it just allows you to be able to see people with a bit more compassion, more empathy. So even if it's just the introduction that I did, and it makes you just that bit more aware, and just for people to then be able to get on in that different way. I know that sounds a bit utopian and a bit ooh, but I just think it really opens your eyes. So whether you do this as a job or just for self-awareness and communication, there's literally nothing bad that you can take from from being involved in it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today,
That's
Kirstie.
all right. Thank you.